got to be good news to have Jalen finally cleared and enrolled and all that stuff get out of the way.
Yeah, it's something we anticipated, but we are glad.
The schedule coming out today, I mean, the excitement for you has got to be through the roof now that you know who you're playing. That's going on.
I don't know if excitement's the word. It is an extremely tough schedule for a team that lost a lot. And I mean that generally you like to build into it. We're going to play a Minnesota team that has every player back but one from an NIT championship. And we're going to play Ohio State, and we're going to play at Western, of course, Kentucky, Ohio State, Indiana. So it's quite challenging. That's not to mention the ACC. Well, when we entered the Big East, this was a little bit different because we don't know the waters we're about to swim in, and we're going to have to learn.
Chris, right now, I mean, obviously
He's fine. It's like those little injuries that you have this time of year you never concern yourself with. It's Devontae Parker type injury that really worries you because it's during the season where you're going to miss games.
McCoy, the same thing as he progressing?
Yeah. That's one of the strengths of our basketball team is we have a very strong starting five. One of the question marks is how strong can our bench become? Because in the last few years we've lost 4 dynamic players in Luke, Russ, Peyton, and Gorgie. And who's going to step up now into a primary role, especially now the guys who played secondary roles like Montrez and Chris and Terry are all stepping into primary roles, and who steps into their roles. So that's the big question mark we've got to fill going into the season.
A buzz about Terry this summer. How do you think he progressed this summer in his game?
I think generally with our guys you see tremendous improvement from freshman sophomore year. And I certainly see that with Chris Jones, who's not a sophomore, but he's in his second year. And the same thing with Terry. Wayne's playing terrific. Like I said, our starting five is a very, very talented group. Mango's really gotten a lot better. It's the other guys. What you don't want to do with the bench is have a big drop-off. And I'm not saying there is, because I haven't seen us practice yet except individual instruction.
In individuals, what is the focus right now for those 7-footers?
7-footers are a project. Most 7-footers I've had in my life are projects. I have a young man that I coached, Nazir Muhammad, who's not 7 feet, who couldn't get through one practice as a freshman. And it's different. These 2 guys are 7 feet. They don't have the basketball, what I call metabolism, to play in this physical environment. It's a big adjustment for them. But both are going to be very, very good basketball players. They're both different. They won't see a whole lot of time this year, though.
Are they redshirt candidates?
I don't know. Sometimes redshirting is good. I think they're both candidates. You got to be really careful with redshirting because if everything goes according to Hoyle with this year's recruiting class, we may not have a scholarship for 2 years. Now, something always pops up. You can count on maybe one popping up. So you got to be very careful with redshirting.
I know it wasn't ideal with Mango, but do you think that redshirt year helped him get ready?
Oh, tremendously, especially with bigs. Now, Mango is much more advanced than the 2 7-footers because he's 6'9.5", 6'10", just like Jalen Johnson's much more advanced than the 2 7-footers. 7-footers need time, development, footwork. Now, they're both different. Honest is a very skilled 7-footer who's 200 pounds. Motts needs to get a lot of strength.
Coach, how far is Jalen behind because of not getting in, and how do you try to make that up?
He's really not that. I'm kind of surprised at that. He's really not that far behind because he stayed in good shape. He's a very good competitor. He's someone physically ready to play, as well as the biggest thing that you guys are going to be shocked with, because our assistant coaches said when I got back off the road, I would not believe the conditioning of Shinano. You guys are going to, what you saw in the Derby Classic to what you will see now, you will be blown away. You'll think it's a totally different person. As Kenny Johnson is a totally different person, you'll say the same thing about Shinano.
You had said in July that you guys were still trying to get familiar with some of the programs that, other than Duke and North Carolina and those teams. How far along do you think that process has gone?
I think they're a unique style. They are grind them style of play. And for a program like ours, that'll be the biggest adjustment for us. It won't be a big adjustment playing against Carolina. But Florida State and Virginia, those are the two programs that play a little bit different than what we've seen in the Big East.
Are they like Marquette at all, Virginia, or Pitt, or teams like that? Or
They don't play as fast as Marquette.
okay.
Do you remember your reaction when you heard Montrez broke another backboard?
You know, when I hear backboards being broken, that means somebody's hanging on a rim.
Yeah.
So probably the least most impressive thing I hear in my life is when someone breaks a backboard.
Right.
I am absolutely. I don't like to see it. I know somebody's going to slip on the glass and get hurt. So that's not impressive. The way he's playing now, and the fact that this will be our second first-team college All-American going into a season is much more impressive than breaking the backboard. It does. I hope we have better results than that. But we have a little bit more talent than that year. I think it's not only I think the similarities are there with the Big East, but the non-conference schedule is what concerns us. Those two red-white games that we have are going to be really, really important to us. Much more important. It'll be the first time I coach one of those games and coach it for real and trying to win. And because it's going to be really, really important that we're ready. You guys are thinking I'm using a little levity when I say this because getting ready for Minnesota. Forget the fact that we're playing against Minnesota. We're playing against a team that could beat us if we're not clicking on all cylinders. So we've got to be ready. We've got to use those two red-white games as a way of getting us ready because sometimes Bellarmine, which is a unique style of play, they don't have, like Minnesota, 2 7-footers. They'll be very good for us with the way they play and trying to defend them, but it's different, as well as Barry. So those two red-white games are pivotal for us to get ready.
Anything else?
Okay.
Thank you.